So we have today two folks from organizations that are really working on those kind of key issues of, what do we care about? How do we express that? How do we get that information into the right people's hands? So right now, I'm pleased to introduce Kevin Dooley from the Sustainability Collaborative. I'll let him talk a few minutes about what his program is working on and what he sees moving forward. And then we'll have another speaker, and then we'll actually have kind of that opportunity to really delve into, well, if we move to this kind of global picture of sustainability, what does it take to actually get there, and how do their organizations fit in, and then what are the challenges that they've come across, and how do we bring those lessons learned into some of the activities that are going on within other sectors. So Kevin, thank you.
Thanks, everybody. I just want to do a very quick poll here. I've been doing this in all the public settings I've been going to. How many of you would say that you can confidently say you know where greenhouse gases come from? And in other words, you know the physical mechanisms of the primary reasons of why we get these greenhouse gases and carbon emissions that cause global warming and climate change? Show of hands. All right, so and what is that mechanism? Volcanoes. Another answer. Plants. Another answer. Everything. Well, more specifically, what? Buildings. Buildings. Okay, buildings. Energy really is, right? Energy is energy production of non-renewable resources, or through non-renewable resources is really the primary reason. I ask even my faculty colleagues at Arizona State if they know, and they say, yeah, isn't that stuff that comes out of the tailpipe of the car? And so I think we have a long way to go to educate our professional workforce about these environmental issues, and then understanding really what are the mechanisms by which these environmental burdens are being caused, because I think we all have a massive responsibility to move on these issues. As our previous speaker indicated, the more that you learn about these topics, unfortunately, the more pessimistic you get about our current state of things. So I want to tell you about the Sustainability Consortium, and specifically to tie into this group, I want to highlight some of the roles that software and engineering software have to play in order for our effort to succeed. And then we are a massively cross-sector effort, and so any questions that you have about the headaches and challenges, et cetera, of working across industry sectors, I can speak at length at. The consortium was really developed for four particular reasons, or four key drivers. We started in 2009 with an initial gift from Walmart, and have about 100 corporate members, NGOs, and academic institutions as part of the consortium. There's a growing demand that retailers feel for green products that has been a little bit dissuaded by the current economic state. Nevertheless, there's a niche of about 15% consumers right now that buy green even if it costs more. And when we get smart in our engineering and can develop products that really are both cost effective as well as greener and more socially responsible, then that percentage is going to go way up. There's massive opportunities for improvement in supply chains when we look at the life cycle of products. And the no-brainers here are energy, water, and waste. So Walmart rolled out a survey to all 20,000 of their suppliers, asking them, do you measure your water, energy, and waste? And for about 90% of those small and medium-sized suppliers, they freaked out and said, measure what? But the bottom line is, right, you pay for energy, you pay for water, you pay for waste. And so there is economic efficiencies as well as environmental burdens that can be reduced through focusing on supply chains. There's regulatory forces. The government of France has passed something called the Grenelle Law, which is going to require, over the next few years, mandatory carbon footprinting on all products. The Government Services Agency of the United States, GSA, has been charged with implementing Section 13 of the Federal Acquisition Reform Law, which requires all government agencies to report greenhouse gas emissions, including up to what are called Scope 3 emissions, which basically includes all the products that all those government agencies buy. The GSA, as the major purchaser of the U.S. government, has something like 800,000 suppliers. Those 800,000 suppliers, even if it's a mom-and-pop copy shop, down the street, copying stuff for a federal agency, are going to have to give information about the carbon footprint of their products. And so there are a number of regulatory forces which are coming to the front, which are going to cause manufacturers to report on the sustainability of their products. Finally, the fact is that when you talk about how we're going to measure the environmental or social impacts of our products and their life cycles, these are not competitive issues. And our members see these as purely pre-competitive issues where it's going to gain everyone great efficiencies if they work together. And so why do we have Dell and Unilever and Safeway working together? Why do we have people concerned about bananas and people concerned about laptops working together? It's because the manufacturers don't want to report in multiple ways to multiple retailers, and the retailers don't want to have to absorb information in multiple ways from different sectors. And so they all view that as a cross-sector pre-competitive issue. So the consortium was created to create science and tools around improving decision-making around product sustainability. Our main focus right now is both an analytical and information platform called Sustainability Measurement and Reporting System. We're going to take the cost of doing life cycle assessment, which right now takes weeks and months and tens of thousands of dollars or even hundreds of thousands of dollars per product, and we're going to turn that into something that literally can be done by people at their desktop in a matter of minutes. So our companies are investing in that kind of pre-competitive buildup of the necessary IT and data infrastructure to enable massive reduction in the cost and time required to do the science. This is going to allow, and this is where we begin to tie into the software companies. It's why we have the major software companies in lifecycle analysis as part of our effort. It's why companies like SAP and Microsoft are working with us. We need to give designers better tools. We need to be able to take the information that we're creating and plug that into the tools, the engineering design tools that you have. Part of our system will improve supply chain management, looking upstream, and part of it is going to enable downstream communication between manufacturers and retailers and eventually consumers. Without getting into the details here, basically the components of this system are part analytical and part computational. So from an analytical standpoint, basically you have to develop kind of the rules of how people are going to measure stuff. And then you have to give them the databases and the IT infrastructure to enable this to happen. And the end result is that this system is going to allow companies to do what are called product declarations. In other words, if you think about the nutrition label on a item of food, we're essentially creating a nutrition label, except instead of nutrition, it's about environmental and social responsibilities, impacts associated with that product. Here's an example of some of our technical work here. I know this is a bit of an eye chart, but this is a life cycle assessment of laundry detergent. And what we do here is called Hotspot Analysis. And so when you look at energy consumed of this product, where is the most energy consumed and thus the greenhouse gases associated with a shampoo, a laundry detergent. It's in the manufacturing of chemicals, so chemical manufacturing is very energy intensive, and it's actually in the heating of the water to run your washer, which is why a formulation like cold water detergent has a huge sustainability impact in terms of reducing the energy required to use the product appropriately. What does our reporting system look like? Essentially, one starts, let's say, at the bottom left there and gets sourcing info. So our system will be set up to allow distributed proprietary information to be shared among suppliers. That supply chain data gets rolled up to some point in the supply chain, such as an end manufacturer. They sit at their desktop with the SMRS tool. They type in their product category code, and up comes a pre-populated model of their product with all the life cycle data, and then a series of pull-down menus which allow them to customize from that kind of generic product to their actual product specifications. The analysis comes out, it's stored internally for audit purposes, and then the impacts, not the secret recipes, but the impacts of that product are then shared downstream with other manufacturers, retailers, and consumers. How does this link into kind of the IT side? One thing is that there's a critical need for life cycle information and associated databases. There needs to be rules for data sharing across the supply chain, and so where are we going with this essentially is that, why would SAP be interested? Because we're moving towards a world where our world will be accounted for. Right now we're only accounting for money. In the future, we will account for all of the things that we extract from Earth systems and all of the things that we put back into Earth systems. That will become part of our standard accounting system. It's 10 years away, 15 years away, but at that time scale, we have to work on it now and start experimenting. There will be standard data links or interfaces for third-party applications, and so we very much want to work with engineering software providers to figure out how we can ensure that the data that we're putting into our system can be used and read into your design systems so that you can begin to develop new features to allow designers to incorporate these criteria within their decision making. And that's all I've got.